Hi, so in today's video I'm going to show you how to make a card with a name welded down the edge, and I'm going to do it all on the machine, nothing at all in ScanNCut canvas. So I'm going to come into the patterns, I'm going to come into the basic shapes, and I'm going to choose a rectangle. The first thing I'm going to do is unlock the aspect ratio so that I can adjust the height and width independently. I'm going to make the width 7 inches. And I'm going to make the height 5.5. Okay, and then I'm going to say set, and I'm just going to drag that down here out of the way for now. Now I'm going to go to add, and I'm going to go into the text, and I'm going to come to this top left font. And I'm going to put the name Wendy on my mat, but in individual letters and all in uppercase. So I'm going to type a W and say OK and set. Then add, go back, type the E, OK, set, add. And I'm going to keep doing this until I've got all the letters on the mat that I need. So I've got the name Wendy, and the reason I'm doing it this way is because I want to align these letters now vertically, and I wouldn't have been able to move them if I'd typed the name all in one word, because there's no ungroup facility on the machine for text. So now I've got the letters there, I'm going to go to the editing icon in the top left. I'm going to use the 3 red boxes, and I'm going to use the first option, and the first option will let me select the shapes or text I've got on my page that I want to select. If I choose this one, it selects everything. I don't know that you can see, but it's all gone red, and I don't want that because I don't want to touch the rectangle at the moment. So I'm going to choose the first box. Drag the arrows up towards the names so the machine knows it's those names that I want to select. I'm going to say OK, OK again. Then I'm going to come into the directional arrows, which then allows me to get into the alignment icon, which is at the top in the middle here. So if I select that, I now get the alignment icons. I want to center them all vertically, so I'm going to use this icon here, and they've all moved and gone to the center with each other. Now I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to say OK. I may want to move the W, I'm not sure yet, but I'll leave it like that for now. And I'm going to group them, which is this icon here. It's a circle and a triangle with a red box around it, so it's showing you that you grab into some shapes. So I'm going to group them, and now the bounding box has gone all around the letters rather than round each individual letter. Now I've got that grouped and selected, I'm going to come back into the editing icons, and I'm going to say 2 under number, so it's going to produce me a duplicate, and there's my second one. So I'll put that out of the way for now. I'm going to bring the box back over, grab one of the sets of names. Now I know this rectangle is 5.5 inches high, which effectively is my base card. So I want the letters to be smaller. So with just the letters selected, I'm going to come into the editing icons again. They're still grouped, so they'll all change together. I'm going to unlock the aspect ratio, and I'm going to take the height of the letters down so it's smaller than the height of my card. So 5.40 might be okay. So I'll say OK, and I'll just move it over and see how it looks. And it looks okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to zoom in and have a look and see if the name is overlapping the edge of the card. Because the W is wider, more of the W is going to overlap on the card. I could line them all up on the left edge and see how that looks, or I can just leave them all centered, but I think I'm going to lose some definition. So what I might do, I'm going to say OK with these still selected. So I'm going to ungroup them, come into the directional arrows, come into the alignment icon, and I'm going to align them along the left and see how they look now. Now I may move the W slightly over, so I'll just say OK for now and OK again and just zoom in and have a look at them. And put them towards the edge of the card and see how they look. So I think I might move that W over slightly. So I'm going to say OK, ungroup them, and I'm just going to click anywhere on the page to deselect. Now I want to select the W, but I don't really want to move all these others, so I'm going to use the icon, the arrows up here until it scrolls around and gets me the W. Now I'm going to come back into the alignment icons, into the directional arrows, and I'm just going to move the W over slightly and say OK. And then I'm going to select the rectangle and move it out of the way for now and just see how these all look now. I think that doesn't look too bad, so I'm going to grab the red boxes again. So I'm going to just select one of the letters without moving it, hit the red boxes again, choose this first one, drag the arrows down so it knows I just want these letters at the bottom, say OK, OK, and group. Now I'm going to bring the box back in, and I'm bringing this box so it's kept into the bottom left hand corner, so it's anchored on the bottom and anchored on the left. And then I'm going to zoom in, might go to 400% this time, and see how the letters look as though they're all overlapping now. Might just move them over a little bit more. So again, I'm going to use the 2 arrows at the top, not the 4 directional arrows, until I get the words here. And then I'm going to use the 4 directional arrows and move them over that way, just one step, and see. Then I'm going to come back to the red boxes, choose the first option, drag it so I've got this set of words and the rectangle, and say OK, OK, and this time I'm going to say weld. And it's giving me a preview, and they all look as though they've welded to the card. So I'm going to say OK. Now, if I cut these letters and put them on top, they'll just sit directly on top. But I want the card base to be bigger, so I've got a bit of an edge. So I'm going to select the card that's got the Wendy welded to the edge. I'm going to go into the settings on the machine, scroll to page 3, and look what seam allowance I've got set, and I've got 1/4, and I think that will be enough. So I'm going to say OK. With this selected, I'm going to come into the editing icons, which is this one here, and I'm going to come to the seam allowance, and that's going to put 1/4 inch all around that card for me. So you can see here it's made it bigger now. So now I'm going to say OK. Now what I'm going to do now, because I'm not sure what I'm going to cut these letters in, I'm going to ungroup the letters, and I'm just going to put them down here on the bottom for now. Not touching, but just lined up on the bottom. And then before I do anything else, I'm going to say OK and save. And I'm going to save it into the machine. And it's saved as pattern 168. So I'm going to say OK. Now I'm going to delete these letters and just cut this base card first. So now I can go back into the editing icons. I've got one of the letters selected. I'm going to use the red boxes to tell the machine I only want to grab a few patterns of my page. It's selected all these words. I'm going to say OK, OK, and hit the delete button and say OK. Now, it's not deleted them permanently, it's just deleted them off this mat. Because I saved it into the machine, I can go back and they'll be there. So what I'm going to do now is cut this base card. One thing I forgot to say, if you want to put a score line in your card, just say OK and then go to add. And on the CM900, which is the UK machine, which I think is the equivalent of the CM350 ScanNCut 2. In the border patterns, if you hit the top arrow, it takes you to the last page and you should find a dash line. If you've not got it, don't worry about it. You can just use your scoreboard or fold it and burnish it with a bone folder, which, to be fair, is the way I prefer to do it. I don't necessarily like using the dash line, but you select it, and I know that my card is 5.5 inches high, so it says here that at the moment the width is 402, so I'm going to make it 5.5. And I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees and say OK and set. And now it's brought it on here. So if I put my card just up there and then position this over it, if I go into the editing icons and go to the red boxes, and this time I want to choose everything, so I can choose the second red box, say OK, go into the 4 adjustment arrows, go into the alignment, and I can ask it to centre it and centre it vertically. Say OK, OK, and I can group it. Oh, and it's saying I can't group it. It's an invalid pair was selected, and that's because I've got the seam allowance on. But it's put it in the middle and it's moving as one anyway. So if you want to use the dash line, that's how you do it. So I'm going to say OK, OK, and I'm going to load the machine with my mat and some card, and I'm going to say cut and cut it, and then I'll cut the letters. So I'll be back in a minute to show you how to do that. I've got a piece of white card on my mat, just going to load it into the machine. I'm just going to go back and do a background scan. I'm going to say OK, OK, and it looks as though it's all positioned correctly. So I'm going to say OK and cut. Okay, so that's all cut, so I'm going to unload the mat. Just peel this waste away. And there's my card with my dash line in the middle. So if I fold this over now, and burnish it, that's my base card. I'm going to load this mat with some coloured paper, and I'm going to cut the name. Okay, to save a bit of time, I've put some double-sided paper on my mat. I'm going to load this mat in. I'm going to go back to home, say OK to delete all patterns because I saved it earlier, go into patterns, into save data, into the machine, and hit the up arrow, which takes me to the last page because this is the last project I saved. I'm going to select that, say OK, but this time I don't want the card, so I'm going to come into the editing icons at the top, and with it selected I'm going to hit the rubbish bin and say OK. Now I'm just going to move the letters up here towards the top because this is where I've positioned my pattern paper. So now I'm going to say OK and do a background scan to make sure that those letters will cut up here on this piece of coloured paper. Just moving the letters just down a little bit because I've not got the paper right up to the top edge of the card. So they look as though they're all going to fit. I'm just going to change my blade and I'm going to say OK and cut. Okay, I'm just going to peel the paper and make sure that they have cut through, and they have, so I'm going to say OK and unload. So now I'm just going to peel this away. Might have to use my spatula. Just getting my letter stuck in the bits in the negative space. Just pop these out. Okay, so there's my letters. So now, because we did this with a seam allowance, these letters should sit on here. Like so. So I'll stick them on with some 3D foam and then I'll show you what it's looking like. Okay, so I've started to put the letters on, and I've worked from the bottom to the top. No particular reason, but so I've stuck them all on 3D foam, so that's how it's looking now. So I think I'll add a bit more decorative paper and something, so I'll show you when it's all completely finished. Okay, so I found some matching card. This paper's double-sided, so I'm going to use the other side, I think. So I'm going to stick that down. Onto this piece of card. This pattern paper is about 2 inches wide. The card's about 2 1/4-ish, something like that. To be fair, I've not cut the piece of card. I'd already cut the pattern paper to 2 inches, and then I found the scrap of card. So I'm thinking I'm gonna put that on there, but I'm gonna put some baker's twine around it, I think. So I'm going to put a piece of the baker's twine on there and just stick it on with some Scotch tape, and then I'm just going to wrap it round a couple of times. And then stick it back down with another piece of tape. I'll put some foam pads or something on it in a minute, but just for now, just to hold it in place. something like that. So I've put some bigger foam pads on the back. I'm just going to put this on the card so it lines up on the top. Finish that down. So that's how we're looking so far. So I think I'll put a greeting or something here. Okay, so I've stamped a couple of greetings in case I mess up, and this is just the waste that the card was cut from. So I'm going to load this onto my mat and hopefully cut a shape around it. I'm thinking something maybe like a 2-inch circle or scallop, something like that. So I'm going to go to home, OK to delete all patterns, and I'm going to go to the patterns and into the basic shapes, and I'm going to look for a simple scallop, and I'm going to make it about 2 inches and see if it will fit around my greeting. Say set, do a background scan. And it should fit. So I'm just going to come into the top left icon and zoom in to 400% and just manipulate it so hopefully it fits. I'm going to say OK, OK, OK and cut. Just going to add some little dots and dashes. Just wait for that to dry. Stick a big 3D foam pad on the back. I need to just put another foam pad on it. And that's how it's looking. So all that was made directly in the machine. The only thing I've added is a little bit of extra card and a piece of paper that I've cut and some baker's twine. So I hope you liked the video. Don't forget to subscribe if you don't already do so, and give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget you can also find me on Instagram and Patreon now as well. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.